Welcome to the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast with your host, Mike DeHaan and Dan Austin. From wins, losses, horror stories, and tactics for optimizing your business, Mike and Dan take a real, uncensored deep dive into the ins and outs of running a full-time real estate investment and wholesaling business.
What's going on, guys? On episode 64 of the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast, Dan and I are kicking off into our new routine here of doing this weekly instead of like bi-weekly.
So much work.
Which is funny because we originally started doing it weekly, and then we shifted to bi-weekly doing the interviews in between, and now we're back doing weekly again because, let's be honest, there's a small sick audience that only wants to hear us talk and doesn't listen to any of our interviews. This is what they're after. So we decided to...
A small subset of people that just love the Mike and Dan show.
Yeah, they do.
Like four, maybe five people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I can tell you the people that do not fit into that is our wives. Because that's why we can't hang out.
I don't know if she's ever listened.
I know mine has very occasionally. Usually when I say like, hey, what'd you think about this one? She gives me a sympathy listen. But that's why we can't really hang out socially anymore, is because it would be me and Dan basically doing an episode of the podcast, because this is how we always talk, while our wives, who are both somewhat introverted, just sat there and wished that they were anywhere except there. So
except for the Mike and Dan show.
Yeah, right. I know the funny thing is that term actually was coined by my wife when after we did a trip to Hawaii, and I remember one particular day where you and me and my mom was there, and Stacy was there, and Madison was there, and they all just sat there, and you and me just talked for like 3 hours. And then finally, like,
we didn't even notice.
And then like later they left, and then Madison was like, man. Well, like she said to my mom, she was like, man, I'm like slightly exhausted after sitting down and listening to the Mike and Dan show for 3 hours. But what can I say?
Man.
We just got, we just get excited about stuff, and we can just talk about nothing.
We got a lot to say. About real estate and crypto and whatever else. I don't even know what else we talked about. Mountain biking, maybe?
Maybe a little bit back then. I don't know. Like that was a while ago because I was just starting to get into business. I think that was actually the first time we went. Back before I even, like years ago now. That was because I think that was the same time that I read the 4-Hour Work Week, and I decided that I was going to...
Yeah, that was 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was 5 years ago. I decided I was going to leave the corporate world after, a week in Hawaii and reading the 4-Hour Work Week. And I remember, like, literally you and me were up on the patio in our room, and it was like, we were like, what if we could be like these dudes down here that are like working, but we could make like $1,000 while we're here? Wouldn't that be sick?
Right? That true story. That's how this all began. Yeah. It began right then and there, trying to make $1,000.
Yeah, $1,000. And then a few years, I guess the next time we went to Hawaii together, which was 4 years later, we closed I think it was a $20,000 deal while we were there, while we were like slightly drunk on Bloody Marys, and we were calling the seller back because she had just said that she didn't want to sell anymore, and I was super upset about it, and you came up and you were like what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I just talked to whatever her name was, and she's like, that's bullshit, you call her back right now.
And you did.
And we did, and we closed the deal on the phone. It was great.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that was a good deal too. Yeah. See, all things start in Hawaii. I mean, on the porch, looking at other people.
Yeah, it's a great inspiration. That's why, Brandon Turner and, other people move there. Because, that is one thing I can say, is if you are someone that can afford to move to Hawaii, a lot of the other people that are going to be in your neighborhood that also moved there are also going to be rich and successful. So you're going to immediately be putting yourself into a network full of people that are like that.
And I would say too, getting in this concept of flow or just motivation, even going to somewhere where you're really happy, get you into that flow state where you start thinking way bigger.
100%.
Hawaii could be there for people. It could just be a random trip to somewhere on the weekend. You're just like, this is badass. I want to do this all the time.
Yeah. That's definitely true. That's one of the big reasons I like to travel a lot, is every time I go somewhere where I have a good time, it gets you out of your element. I always find I get the most creative, just in my general thoughts, and even like work wise, lifestyle wise, like whatever I've been working on suddenly becomes easier to think of when you're not stuck like in your home where you just have like the distractions of like even little stuff like I need to do the dishes, I need to take my dog out, I need to do all sort of things. If you can just like get out of that and you're just immersed in like learning new experiences and being able to, I don't know, reach that flow, like you said, it's amazing how uncomplicated things suddenly seem.
It's funny that yours is like you're traveling, and not that traveling is always easy, but like mine has been historically, not that I don't get it when I travel either, but like doing something hard. For me, it used to be like mountaineering all the time, and going on like a 50-mile mountaineering trek up the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
You're like just sucking. It's like, oh, if I could do this, I could totally do something else.
Yeah.
Like I could totally go start a business or totally do this or totally be way better at life in this, because like you're just like in this mental state where you can't really think about, like when you're like at altitude and you're sweating and you got like 75 pounds of gear on your back, you're on a rope going across the glacier, like you can really only focus on a couple, 2 or 3 things, and all the other noise has to like wash out because you just can't. It's kind of like when you're working out. I don't know if you've ever done this. Like like dudes in the gym are super good at math. Like in their head when they're working out, they're like, okay, I did 9 divided by 3 times 44. I have 7 reps left.
Yeah, right.
Like you constantly, like, because you can only focus on one thing. All the other noise goes away. It was kind of the same for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that, we talk about mountaineering. That's why a lot of high performers get into extreme sports or like not even extreme sports, but like high discipline sports or like high effort sports. Like, see a lot of C-suite sort of people that get into triathlons or like Ironman or these sort of things, because it is such a high, what's like a high suffering sport, I guess. I don't want to say
like
high
discipline.
intensity.
It's a challenge.
It is, right?
Yeah.
And it's a lot of it's mental. And that's the thing too, is like when it comes to like those endurance sports, so much of it is mental. If you have like a general fitness level, you can complete those things if you have the mental toughness. And for those sort of people that have a lot going on their day-to-day basis, it's a perfect reason for them to not think about anything else, or to be able to have like that sort of flow focus, and then they only think about the things that are in their subconscious, which are typically the problems they're trying to solve.
Do you think that also correlates to like the 2 a.m. like wide awake thinking about things?
Maybe. I mean, so here's the difference though, right? Is because I'll get that when I'm stressed. Like I'll get like the, wake up and be like fixated on something, but it's always kind of like doom and gloom, like the 2 a.m., 3 a.m. thoughts. Yeah. Whereas I will have those same thought processes when I'm traveling, when I'm like, for me, I always get on a plane. Like something about like going through the traveling process where I'm on the plane, I just find that I'm super focused on whatever. Even if I'm like watching a movie on a plane, I'm not watching the movie. I'm sitting there staring at the screen thinking about other shit. Right? And I will think about the same problem that keeps me awake at 3 a.m. But when I'm in like that sort of flowed state, it is not scary. It's very easy to be rational and to come up with actually actionable steps on it. Whereas like at 3 a.m. I'm like, it's so bad. Like,
but that's a great idea or topic though, because like that is what drives a lot of people's decisions, is that 2 a.m. like fearful thought. But if you can have that same exact, like put that on pause, and if you can have that same exact conversation with yourself, maybe it's in the gym working out, maybe it's traveling, maybe you're just driving, listening to a motivational podcast like the Mike and Dan show.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
but you can reframe that. You can reframe that fear and put it into something that's actually productive than laying there in bed or being in that fearful state of like, gosh, should I flip a house right now? Oh, what am I doing? I got this place under contract. I'm going to lose my ass. It's like, no. How are you not going to lose your ass? Or like, how are you going to make this thing and be a winner?
Yeah, and I think that is a major reason that a lot of people do tend to struggle with stuff, is because especially if they're, they have a career, they have kids, they have family obligations, they have all sorts of stuff, they're still going to have those 3 a.m. stressors that wake them up, but they never have the flow opportunity to actually work through them. When, the second you wake up, you're not dealing with your kids. The second your kids are gone, you're going to work. You're at work, you're pissed off all day. A lot of people don't exercise. A lot of people, they don't do anything that actually encourage that sort of creativity. So they, instead they go home, they have some drinks, they watch some Netflix, and then they're fucking depressed, and they go to bed, and they wake up and they do it all over again.
Dude, like I could speak to that. Like I'm in like a weird spot in life because I have a 6-month-old. So like that's my life right now with our daughter, and so it's challenging. But I have to be very, I guess, conscientious of that. Like I still try to make sure I'm working out. I still try to make sure that I'm giving myself space to think. But it's super hard, and so I could totally empathize with folks that do that. But it's like, get off your ass, get out of that rut, man.
Totally.
Because it can feel like you're trapped in a situation for a long time unless you actually do something about it.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to do something for you. You know, and you see that a lot. I remember when I used to coach at the gym, you get this from a lot of parents, is they would say that they felt guilty about coming into the gym because, you know, they had kids that they want to spend time with, all this stuff. But the thing is going through that process, I mean, fitness level aside, like, you know, getting fit is, I would say, it's not a selfish thing because that's longevity you're going to have for your kids and your family.
Right, more years in your life.
More years, but just focusing on the mental importance of that. You can't say it's selfish because it's going to make you more present with your family. It's going to, you know, having that sort of discipline, whatever that is, whether that's working out or that's meditation or that's going to the sauna or going for like a daily walk or anything that sort of gets you into that flow state is not, it's the opposite of selfish because it's making you be able to be more present and more productive and, you know, better with your family and your kids and just your life in general. So
100%. Anyway, you got to get there.
Yeah, but big stuff. I don't know. How the fuck did we get on that topic?
I don't know. I don't even ever talk about flow state, but that like that's not my thing. Whatever.
Not only
it's important.
Yeah, not only do we not talk about that, I hate that shit because I find that so many people. Now this is where I'm going to be completely contradictory what I was saying. That's all they talk about, but they're not like actually doing anything. Because a lot of people will fix it on like, well, you know, Joe Rogan, he does the hot cold therapy. He does it. He gets a massage. He goes and he does jujitsu, and then he goes like a journal. I don't even know what Joe Rogan does, but he'll list off like 47 things before he starts his day. And it's like, yeah, but he's rich. He's allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. You need to just get to work.
He was out there making money and making things happen for probably a few decades. Yeah. You know, it's like I wake up at 4 a.m. and then I start my workday at noon. Yeah. But in between 4 a.m. and noon, I'm taking my mud bath. I'm tanning my perineum.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever the hell they call it.
Yeah, but
do some weird shit.
I feel like that's gone away a little bit. That was such a thing like 5 years ago, where like everyone was talking about like their morning routines and like the entrepreneurial sort of like mindset on stuff, but it was all the people that promoted that were people that are already hyper successful, when really most people just needed to, you know, have like your one thing for your mental health and you just need to get to work.
Yeah. Well, I think people make money on the fact that most people aren't disciplined enough to put a framework around their life. So you've got like the Miracle Morning with like Hal Elrod and all those folks. You've got those types of books where all that is discipline, putting discipline into your life where you have no discipline, because then you feel control of what you can do. And it's like, if you can actually just put discipline in your life, you'll be fine. Like you and I are pretty anti-morning routine guys. For me, I don't know for you, but for me, like I don't wake up and do the workout and drink 2 gallons of water and do all these different things. I wake up and do what I need to get to work, and because that's my mental capacity is the highest, and then it starts tapering off during the day. Then before I hit physical and mental fatigue, I try to hit a workout, because then that lifts up my mental capacity again, and I can do it like in a dumb mindset. Like I don't need to be smart when I'm working out. That's going to elevate my mental toughness as it's kind of waning for the day. So like I don't know, people call it what they will. I just do what works for my body and my brain.
Yeah, exactly. And there isn't some magic routine that's going to make someone more successful.
No. And I have discipline. That's it. Whatever that is, have some damn discipline.
Which takes practice. You know, like honestly, it does for a lot of people. But I mean, there's all the little trendy things you see out there. Like Miracle Morning is a good one. You see that so much. Like, you know, Vivid Vision's like another one you see that's just all about creating discipline towards having that vision and that goal. 75 Hard. Everyone and their mom is doing 75 Hard right now, and it's just like literally all that is a regimented, like over the top set of routines that you're supposed to do, and the whole thing is if you can commit to something for 75 days, guess what? Like you just established discipline. That is what you ultimately got from it. You don't even know you're losing.
Who cares about how much water you drink? It was the discipline that mattered.
I know. And then even people are doing it like in a stupid way, where they're like, well, I needed to hit my gallon of water and I'd only had half a gallon. It was 9:00 at night. So I drank a half gallon of water and then I was up pissing all night. It's like, there you go, you dumb shit. You shouldn't have done that.
So now you just lost a night of sleep.
Yeah.
That is dumb. I don't do that game.
Yeah. Anyway, so
yeah, off that topic. Sorry, tangent.
Yeah.
That was rough.
Yeah,
That was
so there's our views on like the entrepreneurial habits and discipline. They are extremely important. They're also stupid.
Exactly. That's the truth.
Yeah, general views on everything. I think that's me in a nutshell right there. So, but yeah, what's going on in the real estate world, Dan?
I'm trying to figure it out just like everybody else. I'm reading the headlines and I'm getting fearful.
Yeah.
I'm not in flow. I'm scared. I'm scared.
I know. I'm
scared.
The thing that drives me crazy about how stuff is right now is just because the like number of transactions and prices and everything like that are so skewed from what they've been historically, especially like the transactional numbers that you're seeing. So you keep seeing all these stupid freaking articles that are like, foreclosures are up 70%. And you're like year over year, it's like, well, yeah, because last year, especially due to COVID, there was like 100, and now there's 170, but the historical number is like 4,000, right? So it's like so,
I hate headlines.
Yeah, it's so far off the reality of what it's been, and like any number is going to skew things an incredible percentage one way or the other.
Yeah,
and
it's clickbait. I don't know who's guilty or who should be blamed for this whole clickbait media team. But that's exactly what that is. I mean, these headlines to try to get people to read them, and then there's like actually no data to back it up other than they pulled out some piece of information that was secondhand and skewed and means nothing.
Well, I think the clickbait was it Nixon? Back when Nixon was president, that they made it so that news, you could like advertise on the news and like news could become for profit.
Well, then F him.
I don't know. Someone can fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure it was like back that sort of time frame, and that's when modern American media sort of started, and why. And
Dick Nixon.
Yeah, and then like Fox News, those sort of things became like quote unquote entertainment, where it's all just about getting views and those sort of things, because a lot of them they sell advertising rights, which is they make more money the more people watch it, so they do things that are extremely inflammatory and just encourage people to engage with it, right, so that they can make more money. But that was illegal for a long time. I'm pretty sure it was like 60s or 70s that changed, and then they started doing that. But I mean, the real estate world though right now is weird, like because rates seem to be changing so insanely much, like every couple of weeks, as no one knows like what the Feds are planning to do over the short term. Kind of like I committed to last week. I'm gonna still double down that I think in March timeframe we're gonna start to see rates coming back down and settling, and we'll start to see the market really level out again. But
we just got quoted today. What did you say? When you're talking to our loan guy, you said that rate is higher than our hard money rate that we're refinancing out of.
Yeah. So we have this property that it spurred the episode we had a couple weeks ago about what to do when you can't sell a flip, because we have a flip right now that we've been working on it for almost a full year. I say quote unquote working on. We bought it last January. It is now December of 2022. It took us 6 months to get the owner out. After we let them stay there for a little while, we were too nice. They took advantage of us. They did all this bullshit. They sabotaged the house. If you guys go check out my Instagram, we did a walkthrough. It's the video on my Instagram at Mike_invest, where we had the freezers that were full of rotting meat, and we found all the
gross.
gun parts out in the shed.
Yeah,
it's a great one. You can go check that out. But it took us forever to get there, and then the reno took a while because it was such a big house. And then we finally got it listed, and the market had already turned. So now we're stuck with this house. It's kind of a higher price point. And ultimately what's happening is pushing up in at the end of January, we have our balloon payment. The lender is like, nah, we're not going to extend you, because when we got this loan, rates were crazy low. So we have a hard money loan on this property for like 7.25%.
Yeah.
So
pretty good rate.
Yeah. So what we're planning to do right now is to refinance it, hold on to it until the spring, and then list it again when it's a little bit better buying time. Because I think
we're probably not going to rent it out. We'll probably just leave it vacant.
Exactly. We'll just sit on it and eat the monthly cost for a little bit, and then try to sell it when the market's a little more favorable, both with the weather and then hopefully with the rates as well. But yeah, so we had a meeting with our loan guy. Is Fairway a broker? We're using Fairway Mortgage.
It's a brokerage.
It's a broker. So they actually go and they broker our loan to somebody else, or do they service the loan themselves and they just sell it?
Oh, I don't think they service it. No,
They don't service it. Yeah.
I don't know. We should bring them on and ask them.
Yeah, actually, that would be a decent call. Especially, I know we have a couple of GoAbundance guys that are pretty big in fairway, so that would be interesting to sort of get like.
That would be cool. Yeah.
So anyway, their 30-year rates were getting quoted for the refinance were like the lowest one was like 7.625. So it's now higher than the hard money loan that we've had for the entire year, which is just, I think, a testament to where we're at. But at the same time, you know, back when we got this loan, the 30-year rates were like still 3. So, you know, it's kind of just the reality of the situation. But
yeah. And that, I mean, maybe that speaks to that they will settle out. We were talking about maybe 5%. You're thinking,
yeah. Well, I mean,
next year,
yeah. Like I just think that that's sort of where the sweet spot is anyway for like the post 2008 market, right? Because
well, people were refinancing in the 2010s, right? It's probably late as like 2014, 15, refinancing or financing to 5%.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was normal.
That was great. So I mean, like the first couple rental properties I bought in 2018, I was 5.5. My primary home, my first primary home I bought in 2014 over in Tacoma, we were at 5.25.
Yep, it was super common, right, to have that rate.
Mm-hmm. And then even like DSCR loans, if you're using private lenders, one of the first BRRRRs I did, I refinanced with a DSCR lender, and I was a 7.75%. And that was what,
really?
Yeah, that was what you got back then, you know?
Yeah.
And it
we had just that weird subsidized by the federal government low rate. Mm-hmm. And if you took advantage of it, that's awesome. If not, we're just going to go back to where we were. And the house that we have now that we're trying to sell at 5% sells better than it does at 7.5%.
Totally. Yeah, because it's like a $500,000 house. You know, that's a lot of money here to pay that difference off on those couple of percentage points.
Absolutely.
But one of the biggest questions we've been getting though from people has been about flipping houses in this market. Mm-hmm. I don't know, like what are your opinions on that? I know we've backed off from buying any sort of like flip style properties over the last couple of months. I mean, big part of that is we're starting to look towards marketing and buying larger assets, just as our, I guess we decided a couple weeks ago that we're kind of sick of crack houses and just like dealing with psycho people. Yeah. So I think going into this new year, one of our goals is to start to scale the larger assets and just sort of see, how our market.
Yeah, I think for us too, like it's a unique decision for everybody. For us, we had a good run dealing with crackheads. We made some good money. It put us in a strong position to continue our business in whatever fashion we think is right without having to worry about making payroll. And I also think that for us, where we recognize our performance in context of where we want to perform is mid-size multifamily assets.
Totally.
Like we're good at marketing to them. We're good at locking them up when we find a good deal. And now we also have the cash to pay a higher premium for them than we would have starting out when we were dealing with single family crackheads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and not even necessarily mid-size, but like if we get some sweet duplexes, I'd love to buy some more.
Oh yeah. I mean, anything multifamily, of course.
Even up to, I don't know, I think like 20, 30 units would be a pretty good sweet spot because that's below institutional money, but it's large enough that I know we could raise if we needed to.
There's still a lot of mom and pops out there running 12 units, 8 units, 16 units that we can market to.
Yeah, and we own a couple. Well, I guess we own an 8 unit and a 6 unit that do okay for us. But flipping houses right now, it's just like a little bit of a different ball game, and I think that the main thing that I would be super cautious of would be just like buying things that are outside of the kind of what I would call the affordable price point in your market.
Totally.
That's not the average price point, right? Because in Spokane, the average price point is about $450,000. If I'm looking at like, and the big problem with that is skewed by, some of the properties here that are very high price points, especially because we don't have a huge number of just like general population in the area.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of $1.2 million homes that have sold in the last 6 months.
Yeah, we do. And then also too, I mean, Spokane, and you have to look at your own market to see this, but Spokane is pretty divided income level wise. So there is like a ton of people who, and this was true last year too. So the most competitive market was like the lower price point. The second most competitive market was like the $600,000 to $800,000 price range, right? And that still exists, right? But it still exists in terms of like there's a lot of people that live in that sort of price point. I mean, that's like, that's where you and I are. But a lot of those people, they aren't buying flipped houses. They're buying new builds. They're buying like, custom stuff. Honestly, a lot of them would even rather buy fixers and, like do some of the fixes themselves. But like, it's kind of like that middle price point, like the, 300 to 600. That's really weird here because people are either moving up to the nice ones or they're staying lower. And then obviously the primo stuff is harder to move. But like what I would like flipping houses right now, I would just want to be down in like what I would call like the blue collar or like the working class price point, because that's I would call
it not just affordable, but value. Right?
Yeah.
Like value. What are you getting for your money? Because just because you can go and buy a 3-bed, 1-bath, 1920s built home with 1,200 square feet doesn't mean you're getting value.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Because that could be a shitty house that you're buying that has a terrible floor plan. But you could go up the road for the same price and buy a 3-bed, 2-bath with an unfinished basement, same square feet, but built in the 1960s, 1970s, a better floor plan, better structure, just newer upgrades. There's value in that one compared to the other one.
Yeah.
So what are you getting? Just because you're at that affordable or middle ground price point where the people that can afford 500,000 are stepping down into that, and the people that can't afford 500,000 can only afford that. So you just have a wider swath of affordable clients to buy those from.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has to have value though.
It does. Yeah. And if the buyer pool isn't there, like, at the end of the day, when you're flipping a house, you are servicing the retail buyers. So you need to create the product that real retail buyers want and can afford. And like you said, Dan, it's creating that value house. So you want to be buying, I would say, like not weird, not unique houses in kind of that affordable price point. And you want to make them tasteful and, appealing to like whoever that clientele is going to be.
And make it better than the one next door. When you're rehabbing it, I would say you've got a budget to have a little bit of a cleaner rehab. Yeah. You're right. You can't buy weird shit. Like we've done some weird shit and it worked and it made us money. Right now, I would not be pushing to buy something weird just because it's the only thing available in front of you right now. Yeah. And then, making it to where there's value and that people want to live in that house or that neighborhood. And then I would say pricing in, just like all the dorks were doing last year with the appreciated ARV.
Yeah, that was such a freaking.
I'm all for depreciated ARV right now. Like drop it 10% from what the comps. Look at comps. I would say 30 and 90 days. If you have to, go to 6 months, but 6 months is almost way too old, right? But if that's what you have to do, if you can do comps 30 and 90 days along with days on market and pending sales right now, that's your comp, and then take off a little chunk.
Yeah, I'm gonna repeat what you just said. I think that's super valid, and that's something that people in our instant investor program have been asking as well, is about comping right now. Instead of using historicals, using, like you said, those pending and like the immediate recent sales, and like looking at days on market to sort of like see if that was a competitive price or not. Because what we've always done in the past and what we've taught in our program is you go through, you look at the stuff over the last 3 to 6 months, and that's how you get your value. But just with the way things are trending, what something sold for 6 months ago is very different from something we'll sell for now. And like honestly, the main thing is seeing what stuff is currently pending for, and looking at the days on market to try and like hypothesize where you need to be compared to that to be competitive. Because sure, something can be pending for at asking price, but if it was on the market for 100 days, you probably don't want to use that. You can also probably be certain that there are some concessions or some other sort of expenses on that, even assuming it's even going to be going for that price that it's showing as pending out on Zillow. It could also close for even less than that. But you can assume that there's going to be some sort of trade between the seller and the buyer for the transaction to go through at that price point. Whereas, last year you could look at historicals and you would even be going up. Like I said, appreciation ARV. You saw it all over Seattle with these like dipshit wholesalers that were out there that were like getting things at 90% of value and saying, but in 3 months it'll go up another 20%. And people were buying those properties like idiots.
Yep.
Oh my God.
And they're losing money on it. What do you know? There's some big players in Seattle, like you said, posting on Instagram that they're losing some big chunks.
Yeah, I saw. Taro Yarber shout out to him. I don't know him, but you've lost some big money this year, dude. And this is public knowledge. I'm not calling you out, but on his, he's a big time flipper. You know, he's super involved in bigger pockets. He hangs out with Brandon Turner and all these sort of dudes. And he posted like $100,000 loss, I don't know, like a month or so ago. And he just posted about another like $45,000 loss. And they're just like, you know, cutting what they can and just trying to get him off the books at this point.
Yeah.
But
and he's an experienced guy. Like I would trust his knowledge base, and so it can happen to anybody. But you know, sometimes the train has to stop somewhere, and whatever the bag you're holding is the bag you're holding. And if that bag's $100,000 loss, you know, And if you don't have the equipment like we do to stabilize a property and throw it in our portfolio and absorb it for a short period of time or long period of time, like you're going to be in trouble because you have to sell. Like if you're just a flipper and that's the only tool set you have to sell at a loss.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even the one that we're, you know, refinancing right now, if we had a contract accepted on that one that ended up going out because of the potty pads, which I think I talked about last week with the freaking, you know, the previous owners had left it there, but we were going to lose 25 on that. And I mean, we still could very well lose on it next spring, but you know, we're going to at least shoot our shot and see what happens. And worst case scenario, we're going to have a bunch of money tied up and we'll have like kind of a break even rental if we're lucky, but you know, we can figure out sort of what to do with it at that point. But I mean, that is kind of the frustrating thing though about how this past year has gone, man, is we have so much capital tied up.
I know we were talking about that earlier today. We have a lot of hundreds of thousands of dollars tied up.
What do we think about $500,000 tied up just from this year on the stuff that we kind of had to get weird on, or like we couldn't sell? So like we have that property that we couldn't sell. We have the freaking condo that you guys heard us talk about months ago
so many
with
times.
the insurance bullshit that we still can't sell, and I don't know what's going to happen with that one. And then we have this lot that we talked about a few weeks ago that we were planning. We spent some pretty significant money doing all the work on the land for that, and now we're told that we can't sell it because the lender refuses to work with us on repositioning the loan.
We had it signed around and everything too.
I know. Then the frickin' insurance house with the oil leak, like we have more money tied up into that than we were expecting. So you know, if you guys want to get into real estate, these are the fun things that can happen. But on top of that, with all the bullshit, I don't know, I still got to travel for 12 weeks this year. So, I mean, it's okay.
Well, I mean, it's an argument of like, you have a lower return on equity when you have money tied up that you know you could put somewhere else. But at the same time, it's at least tied up in a pretty good asset that's still appreciating through this. And it's there, right? So like we will be able to access it. We're just not going to access it how soon we wanted to access it. And it always seems to be that way in this business because real estate is illiquid and it doesn't move as fast as you want it to, which is also why wholesaling is great, because wholesaling typically does move faster so you can accumulate cash. But then again, like we always say, don't count your chickens before the eggs have hatched, or don't, whatever you call it. I don't know.
Well,
don't count that money till it's in your bank account, because those deals can sometimes not happen.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and it's been a regular occurrence, especially when you're getting into the off-market realm, where you know there's just a lot of people involved and a lot of things can go sideways that you never predict.
That's why you got to get in flow state, man, so that you can just like ride the wave.
Full circle, bring it full circle. So to flip in this market, step 1, 8-step morning routine. Get into your flow state, hot bath, cold bath, high intensity workout, go for a walk, eat
chai tea,
eat chai tea with MCT oil in it. What else are you supposed to do?
Microdose psilocybin.
Microdose psilocybin. Take a quarter of an edible.
Go. Oh, now you're speaking my language. Starting to talk here.
I don't know. Go prayer. Write in your journal, do your affirmations, I don't know, jerk off, whatever the fuck else you're supposed to do. That's how you be successful. Do all that. And then that's how you start flipping in this market. And then buy properties that are not unique, that are at like the affordable value price point, like the starter home style of houses. I think that's going to be key. And then I would keep your renovations relatively simple. I do not think that this is the time to be doing crazy things like, you know, doing like a bump out, or like doing like, you know, knocking down a bunch of walls and trying to reframe the house, unless it's super clear and basic what you're going to do. So super simple renos and like that kind of affordable price point is where it needs to be.
Absolutely.
And
this is where due diligence matters.
Exactly.
When you talk about reno and all that.
Yeah. And when you're analyzing your opportunities, look at pending sales and time on market and not historicals from six months ago, because that is no longer going to be accurate if we're going to be able to get. So
Agreed.
cool. Right on, guys. Well, I think that kind of covers it. Any last thoughts on any of that, Dan?
No, I love it. I think you summarized it really well, especially your miracle morning.
That's the most important thing. Do that. I said 7 steps. I think it was 13. So, you can
get after
it.
Do it.
Yeah. As long as you wake up at 4 and you don't start working until 1 p.m. That is what they all tell you to do. So
key to success right there.
Exactly. So awesome, guys. Well, thanks so much for listening. Please go and leave us a 5-star review. We have, as of the time of this recording, we have 25 5-star reviews. Until we get to 50 reviews, so that's 25 people. If you go and leave us a 5-star review, you send it to me on Instagram at Mike_invest. I will send you a free Collecting Keys podcast t-shirt. They're pretty cool. I should be wearing one for this video, but I'm not. But you can go and check us out on YouTube.
Go and do it, man. Go send the 5-star review to Mike. Those shirts are worth it. I'm not kidding.
They are.
I want another one.
They're nice tri-blend shirts. So go leave us a 5-star review right listen to your podcast. Send me a screenshot on iTunes. I will send you a free t-shirt. Aside from that, guys, if you want to start generating off-market leads, you can go to collectingkeyspodcast.com/free, and you can get Dan and I's free 5-step guide to how you can start generating off-market leads in as little as 2 weeks. Be a great way to get going if you have any interest in getting into this business full-time. And then, aside from that, talk to you guys next week.
See you.
Thanks for listening. Please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And check us out at collectingkeyspodcast.com for tips and guides on starting your own real estate investment and wholesaling business.